Well, good Wednesday evening, College Church. It's great to be with you on this Wednesday evening, and I hope that this message finds you doing well and that you have enjoyed your day today. Looks like we're in for a little rain coming up towards the end of the rest of this week. Looks like Hurricane Laura will be making its impact known, may have already done that. So a message from your friendly meteorologist, Nick McNabb: be sure you take your umbrellas to stay dry. It's August the 26th, and the title of my lesson tonight, or my devotional tonight, is Walk to the Other Side. And the reason August 26th is such a significant day, and the reason I bring that up, is because in 1925, on this day, Austin P. McNabb was born. Austin P. McNabb was my papaw, Papaw McNabb, as we called him. Papaw McNabb was a self-made, hard-working farmer. He spent his entire life on a farm on Beaver Dam Road in Hickman County, Tennessee. Farming was his life. Farming was his livelihood. Farming was the way he fed and also supported his family. He grew his own groceries, I like to tell people, and you know someone like that. Maybe even you have done it. He grew his own groceries and he stocked his own freezers with farm-grown meats. At one point as a kid, I thought my papa owned at least 1,000,000 acres because it seemed that he had crops all over the place and he had cattle and pigs all over the place. It seemed like to me that he must at least own 1,000,000 acres. I, along with my sister, on many weekends as children, would spend time on the farm with Papa McNabb and my Granny Sue. And those memories that we have from staying on the farm with them are etched in our mind. They have helped develop who we are, and they are cherished, and they're lifelong memories that we will carry with us forever, and lifelong lessons that we learned as well. You see, Papa McNabb really loved his family. I can remember times when he would show up at our door with a load of meat that he had just received from the processing plant as he had carried off and butchered a beef cow. That was one of the ways that he showed us that he loved us, as he always supplied for us. He loved us so much that he was willing to make sacrifices to stay connected with us. Like, for example, on Friday nights when Lindsay and I, my sister, would be spending the weekend with my grandparents, my granny would fix meals that we enjoyed as kids. You see, my papa thought a meal only consisted of, it was only required to have 3 or 4 garden fresh vegetables and some meat that they had raised on the farm. And it was usually fried. He thought that is what a real meal looked like. But on Friday nights when my sister and I would be there to spend the weekend, he would nibble on frozen pizza, maybe even boxed pasta from a box, if you will. And I even saw him a couple of times stick his hand in the bag of Doritos or Cheetos and eat 1 or 2. These were not the kinds of foods that my papa liked. He liked homegrown, real food, as he would later say. He ate these on these Friday nights, not because he liked them, but because he loved his grandchildren, and he knew his grandchildren liked that kind of food. Papa and Granny were willing to walk to the other side to stay connected and to maintain a relationship with their grandchildren. Papa McNabb taught us to love others. And he taught me in this, as I look back, that keeping a connection, even though we might not agree, but keeping a connection with someone and putting aside what we would really like to have is the only way that we will ever be able to make an impression. So to keep connection helps to lead to an opportunity to make an impression. And both of my grandparents, both sets of my grandparents did that very well. And both of them have made lifelong, indelible impressions upon me. You see, in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 19 through 23, I think we see a sort of a similar story here that relates to a godly impact that the Apostle Paul took on this same kind of mentality. To keep a connection, means that we will have an opportunity to impress upon somebody something. And he ends this passage, 19 through 23, with this in verses 22 and 23. Paul says, I have become all things to all men, so that by all possible means I might save some. And then here comes the reason. Paul said, I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I might share in its blessings. Why did Paul become all things to all people or all men? Was it because Paul wanted to be liked? No. It was because Paul wanted to keep a connection so that he could make an impression with the gospel in someone's life. I believe that's what my Papa McNabb and Granny Sue did for us. I believe that for my sister and me, that if they had not done such a thing, the impact on our life would have been much different. If Papa had not been willing to walk to the other side, to meet his grandchildren, to go over halfway to meet his grandchildren, the impression that he made upon us could have been much different. And this connection that he kept, even if it caused him to eat frozen pizza, was something that he deemed that was very important. And I think the Apostle Paul is saying the same thing. As for me and you, let me ask a question. Is there someone you want to stay connected with? Maybe it's a loved one. Maybe it is a grandchild. Maybe it's a son or a daughter. Maybe it's a neighbor. Maybe it's a friend. But is there someone that you desire and you see the need to stay connected with because you want to make a gospel impression upon them? Well, I think it's incumbent upon us to really evaluate our ability to walk to the other side. And walking to the other side requires us to lay aside the things that we would like to do in order to make that impression. If sharing the gospel, like Paul says in verse 23, if sharing the gospel is our great motive to stay connected to someone, maybe we should be willing to do like Paul, whatever it takes to gain some. My Papa McNabb and Granny Sue taught me this lesson when I was a kid, that we may have to lay aside the things we really want in order to stay connected with someone. We may have to walk to the other side of the room in order to stay connected so that we can make an impression on them, a gospel impression on them. For them, my grandparents, I am eternally grateful for learning this lesson. Thank you so much for listening tonight. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope perhaps it's maybe even challenged you and encouraged you in some way. God bless and much love to you. We'll see you soon.